Today's question is a bit longer, so I'm going to read it directly. It's, if I want to release specific issues I'm hung up on, is it more useful to use a guided meditation? Another way of thinking of this is that sometimes guided meditations force me to go places I wouldn't go otherwise. So if I want to release specific issues I'm hung up on, is it more useful to use a guided meditation? Another way of thinking of this is that sometimes guided meditations force me to go places I wouldn't go otherwise. So I don't have a lot of experience with guided meditation because I started meditating when I was very young, maybe 6 or 7, and I didn't understand it as meditation. It just sort of started happening spontaneously, that I felt this very alive experience that would start to come spontaneously when I was a child. Like I would be in a swimming pool, or I would be, where else was I? Gosh, I would be outside somewhere, and suddenly I would feel that everything around me was very, very, very alive. It's very hard to describe, but it was like there was an immediacy, like a high definition, an impossibly high definition to everything around me, to the trees around me, to movements of water around me. And there was a sense of infinite openness and like just like new, it's so hard to put words to something like this, like new expansiveness, like when you're looking up at a really bright sky and you're just kind of in awe. But it would happen really spontaneously. It would sort of wash over me in certain moments, and it always surprised me. It was something that was so unique, so powerful too, that I would think, what just happened? What is that experience that I'm having? And it felt like somebody was watching me when that happened. At the time, I didn't realize that was my own experience of myself on a deeper level. That observer was me. So I thought, somebody's watching me. When I was younger, I thought maybe like an angel or something, because I grew up in a Catholic context, and so that was sort of my way of discerning this in the beginning. So I just started to look more deeply into that experience that I was having. It was a natural question, like what just happened? What was that? That was amazing. And I kind of started to lose interest in everything else and just wanted to go into that experience. So that was meditation for me. I didn't know that there was a thing called meditation. Again, Catholic context, the word meditate wouldn't have been used so much as pray or pray the rosary or something like that. So the idea of meditation in itself wasn't something that I came to until later. There is a meditative tradition in Catholicism, but it's not what is usually taught to young children initially. So that was my initial experience of meditation. And guided meditation, aside from maybe reciting the rosary, which was something that I did do as a child, guided meditation never really came in for me. Maybe prayer, something like that, would come in for me. So then, as I got older, I did see other people, making more of an intentional effort to come to this connected space that for me had just happened spontaneously. I sort of won the lottery in that sense when I was younger, that it was just there. And what I do see in my experience teaching people to meditate and observing other people coming to this and meditating is that guided meditation is very good for relaxing. It's very good for quieting down before bed or for lowering stress in a particular moment. It doesn't tend to be as good for deep connection and for resolution in the psyche. So if you're really looking to release issues that you're hung up on, which is the kind of thing that you would go to therapy for, that you would look for a good psychologist for, but you're looking to that resolution internally on your own, which is fine too. You can go to therapy and talk through things. If you feel comfortable and able to, you can look in yourself and let them come up in meditation. That's just a different way of dealing with things, of allowing things to move through you and dissolve. So if that's your focus, I definitely see that it is most natural to just meditate in the simplest form, which is without a focus, without any particular intention, just not doing and letting awareness start to arise. So if you don't know what that means, if you don't have that experience of awareness, you don't have to look for it. But the beginning of this kind of meditation is really just not doing anything. It's not a technique. It's not anything special. It's the most basic experience of what any person would do if they start to look inward, if they had no cultural context for it or no teaching around it, but someone, had a sense, I should look inward. Well, what would that look like? It would probably look like, being in a space where there aren't many distractions and just sitting and seeing what's there. As you do that, a lot of times tensions come up, things that don't feel good. It may not feel like a walk in the park. There may be a lot of irresolution that comes up, anxiety, discomfort. And when you have a guided meditation, it's easier to sort of avoid some of that internal experience because there's a nice trip you're going on. There's a nice walk you're going on. But if you just open, free rein to your psyche, whatever comes up, things come up. The thing about a guided meditation to release specific issues that you're hung up on is that you don't actually know what you're hung up on as well as you think you do. So consciously, you may be aware that you have certain issues that you need to resolve, and that may be true. But the roots of those issues and the real psychic, in your psyche, in your deeper self, the real structure of those issues is probably something you can't even imagine. You really don't understand. That's the kind of thing that, again, you might go to therapy to try to unearth. But you don't need to understand those issues conceptually. If you just sit and allow them to come up, the roots of those issues and their real structure will emerge naturally. You don't need to mentally understand everything. You can observe what comes up and you will learn about what those complexes are, what is coming up. But if you try to aim to release a certain issue, the fact is that you probably don't understand it as well as you think you do in yourself because it's your unconscious. Nobody can see their unconscious. That's why it's unconscious. So if you just give it space to come up, there's an organic process in you. And it will come up the way that it wants to. It's like a plant growing. You can imagine what you want a plant to be and you can put it in optimal conditions, but you can't really force it to grow. It's gonna grow in its own natural way, and it's gonna make its own compensations. It's gonna turn towards the light. It's gonna move away if there's too much. As long as it's got basically healthy conditions for that species, it's gonna figure itself out. And you are the same. If you give yourself space internally for things to arise as they want to, as the sort of the gravity of your being is inclined to have them surface, things will come up just as they need to. And if you just keep allowing and keep observing, keep sitting with whatever's coming up, and sometimes it's not easy. It's easy in the sense that it's very simple, but it can be very unpleasant. But if you just keep sitting with it and observing it, there's resolution happening on levels that you can't conceptually understand because you don't even understand, you could say, the structure of your dysfunction. So I think for releasing things that you're hung up on, for releasing things that you may not even be aware that you're hung up on, for releasing all of your inner baggage, the best kind of meditation is a meditation that isn't really any kind of meditation. It's just the simplest thing. It's just sitting, being, doing nothing, and letting your psyche, the intelligence within you, do what it needs to, and just sort of bearing witness and participating in that process through observing and allowing.